What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Jay Baz, and we back with another video. And in today's video, I wanted to discuss. Last video we talked about sustaining your altitude, but in this video, now we're going to talk about being able to keep your natural flow and reinforcing your natural rhythms and natural self. The things about you that you don't, that other people see as faults in you. Because in order to sustain yourself and be of the greatest impact and be able to do what you do long term and have a longevity in what you do, because a lot of times we have big visions and, things that we want to do, and it's like, how can we have longevity in that thing that we want to do? Because it's one thing to envision it and another thing to go after it. But then there's that thought that trips in your mind, like, how am I going to sustain doing this, right? And the thing is, like, when we talk about sustainability, we need to be able to reinforce ourselves, because what I believe life isn't really about how much you can do in it, or even how much you can imagine, but it's really about how much of what you imagine that you can reinforce in yourself and implement. Like, how much of the things that you really like, your creativity that's solely you, that's purely you, that you can imagine, how much you can really take from your own imagination and reinforce. Can you be disciplined to it? Can you just craft and build altitude in this? And I believe that's the best way in order to really sustain yourself and do something for a longevity period of time. And to be honest, it'll probably be the hardest thing you ever do. But eventually it'll become sustainable, and it'll be something that you can sustain over a long period of time. I know in the last video we talked about sustaining altitude, but there's so much that comes with sustaining altitude, it's not even funny. Like, you have to, most people say you gotta enjoy what you do and you gotta love what you do. I believe that you have to be yourself. I believe you have to reinforce those things that are who you are, and those things that other people might not see as significant, right? Everything that we have is of significance, or everything that we enjoy doing is of significance. So if you like getting into creativity and stuff like that, if you like getting into things like that, or whatever it may be, and these simple things that you are insignificant, or that you think are defiling you, even possibly are things that are part of the systems that create who you are. See, we can never be perfect. Like, I'm starting to realize that we can never be perfect, and the whole notion of somebody being perfect is a farce, and it's stupid. And the reason it's stupid is because if God the Omnipotent gave us a piece of himself, how can we be perfect ever? So the whole notion of striving to be perfect, and the whole notion of striving to be all impervious is crazy. Like, that's not something that we should be striving for. We should be striving for is to be the best version of ourselves, and the best version of what the higher source, the higher power has put in us. And so what that means is, whatever God gifted me with, and whatever that I'm good at, I'm gonna take all those things, man, reinforce them, and I'm going to implement those things to the best of my ability, man. And sometimes, man, maybe if I eat too much, or if I don't eat enough, or maybe if I don't sleep enough, or maybe if I, watch too much TV, whatever it may be, everybody's different. And even though that sometimes some of the things you do, other people may judge and think that you do it, and it's something that that is bad, or a negative flaw in you. If some people may see it as a negative flaw in you, but to be honest, everything you do is a part of your systems that make you who you are. So sometimes, man, people do things, and it comes from your background, how you grew up, and a lot of these different things play a key factor in how you behave, and how you live. So it's like, if that's the case, and your body's making these, adjustments, and you're living a certain way, it's like what makes you the most effective in doing what you need to do to be the best version of yourself, and not perfect, because the whole notion of this perfect thing is the biggest thing that defiles most of us. And I think it's the biggest thing that's causing most of us anxiety. And I think it's the biggest things that's short-circuiting most of our systems. Because when we get to a point to where we're defiling our systems that came from the higher source and criticize our own selves for what we do and the way we do things, to a point to where it limits us and makes us incapable of performing the best version of ourselves in the best way that we can. This is not something that is right. This is something that is detrimental to us. And it's something that the enemy uses to try to pick apart our systems. And when it comes to a point to where, our systems are being picked apart, now we can't perform the best we can, and we start being, we start short-circuiting in places that we never believed that we could even short-circuit at. And we start faltering in places that we've never even begun to think that we could falter at. And as we keep faltering and we keep trying to be perfect, we keep faltering some more. And now we have all of these different types of patches and holes in us that we don't even know where we came from, and we can't solve them because we haven't realized the fact that we've suppressed ourselves to a point to where now we're short-circuiting in other areas that we weren't short-circuiting when we didn't suppress ourselves. So it's like, when you really look at it, the most important thing, we can only be the best version of ourselves. We can't be perfect, but we can hold ourselves accountable in being the best version of ourselves, and whatever that may be. So, man, sometimes, man, whenever you watch too much TV, man, don't mind, it's your job and it's your duty to make sure that you continue to do what you do to the best of your ability. So sometimes, man, if you watch too much TV, man, it is what it is, man. That's just what you do. Live your life. Or maybe sometimes, man, maybe you work out too much. There's things that you do, that might seem like they're imperfections in you, but really these things are perfections to you specifically. They may be imperfections to somebody else, but they're perfect to you. So I think that's why the internet is so much of a detriment to us in many ways. Many ways it's not, but many ways it is. It's because sometimes a lot of us as kids get on here and we see a lot of different things and we want to try to be perfect. We hear what we hear, we see what we hear, we hear what we see, and it's like, we want to be perfect. Not understanding that, we can't be as perfect as a lot of these people that come in the internet, and we can't be perfect like the people who come in, and do certain things. Like, we can't do the things the way that they do, and we have to do things our own way, right? And we have to carve out ourselves, in our own way. Now, it's like what the internet can do, it can spark you. Like, if this is where you get, some places, on the internet, you can get that imaginative space, right? Some people you do watch, you can get that imaginative space, and they really bring out something in you. I mean, that's just a part of what it is, right? But a lot of times, man, some of the things that we hear, it's just people trying to be pose or as perfect, and people trying to pose as all these things that you should be, and all these things that you gotta be. But it's like, God never intended us to be perfect. And I think the most important thing for us to be doing is to be reinforcing our minds, our spirit, and our bodies in whatever way that we do, right? So whatever it is that we do, whatever it is that we watch, whatever it is that we listen to, the music that we listen to, all these different things, it's a matter of recreating the environment, right? So when you can change your environment, then this is where you can get to a point to where you can sustain your altitude, right? And plus, the environment in that you craft yourself in is the environment that you carry in everything that you do, right? So when I say that it's when we have to reinforce our natural selves, or reinforce the natural things that that make us unique, that would include the environment. music creates an environment, right? So music and what we watch, all of these things create an environment in some way, shape, or form. So if we reinforce the vehicles or the channels that we use in altitude, then this will create sustainability. And what I mean by that is, the music that you listen to, continue to, keep pouring that music into you and let that become the natural music that you move to. And it's the same thing with what we watch in art. I like to use art as a definitive way of trying to control my mind nowadays. Nowadays, I use art as a way of trying to control my mind, because the more I look at art, or the art that I create, that's the image that I see in my mind. And I do that because I don't want anything else in my mind. I'd rather have my own image in my mind, or the image that I create, or that's coming from my own imagination that God gave me, than for me to suppress that imagination and to get it taken over by something else. That's the second thing. It's imagination. Like, putting your imagination, reinforcing your imagination by however means that is, like manifesting and articulating it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever way that you can reinforce that and implement that imagination. And of course, physically as well. The way we move, the way we work out. I know I've spoken a lot about this in previous videos too. The natural way in which you move, your natural rhythm, right? All of these things are very important in for creating that sustainability. So it's not a matter of creating, capacity and looking to trying to do all these different things, and how much you can do and how much you can be flashy and great in altitude. But it's a matter of how strengthened can you be, and how much can you reinforce these things that you love, your imagination, your natural rhythm, and the music you listen to, or your spirit. How reinforcing can you be in these things? How many different avenues, or how flexible can you create these things to be? Because that's where real strength comes from. That's where real reinforcement and strengthening comes from. It's not just strengthening, in a sense to where, of power, but no, strength is also flexibility. Like, when you get into a very contrasting environment, or how many different types of environments can you get into, and your spirit or mind or body change form in order to fit that outlet. When we look at our channels, right? Like, say spiritually or mentally, right? Can your systems fit that altitude, or fit that channel of an entrepreneur, or fit that channel of an athlete, for example? I'm using that as an example. Or can it fit that channel of someone who cooks, a chef? Can you get in the kitchen? You know what I'm saying? Not to say that you got to be able to do a billion things. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, or what I was trying to say, but I guess I didn't explain it good enough. The explanation didn't come out right. What I'm trying to explain is that you want your systems have to be flexible. I guess what I'm really trying to say is, the more flexible you can make your systems, that has a big influence or impact on the strength of your systems, right? And a better way for me to explain it, because I don't want it to get misinterpreted. Your systems, they have to have a channel, right? They have to have a channel, and the channel could be anything. Like, the channel could be basketball. I mean, you can't just have, there is no capacity, or there is no implementation of capacity without a vehicle or a channel to push it through. So it's like, if I have a certain, if I just got a certain energy to me, and I can't express that energy, or I can't articulate myself, without a vehicle, right? I can have the message, and I can have the I can have the energy, but if I don't have the vehicle, then I'm I can't. You can't really express that. You can't impact anything, and that's that defiles you right there. So it's like that's not what I meant. When I say that you have to have other outlets and other you have to be flexible, that means that you can maintain yourself in any environment that you happen to get yourself into. If you happen to get yourself into, a lot of things happen, man. You're gonna get put in a lot of different situations, and life's gonna throw a lot of different curveballs at you, and because that's the nature of life itself. How many times can your systems change forms in order to deal with the problems that you're confronted with? How many times can the systems that you create can maneuver? How many times can you sustain your altitude and sustain your natural flow? Right? So this is what we mean by being able to reinforce your systems and reinforce what's naturally you. Because if you can reinforce that, you can reinforce that imagination, those dreams that you had as when you were a kid, or the imagination you had when you were a kid. If you can reinforce those things right there and carve out those things and manifest those things, those beautiful things, then you are in a position, or a comfortable position enough within yourself to be flexible enough to change forms and being able to handle any problem that comes your way. So without further ado, I'm going to conclude this video right there. I hope y'all are doing good. I hope y'all learned something in this video. I'll catch y'all in the next one. We out.